Hi guys, so another quick tutorial here for you today. I've had quite a few people messaging me asking me how I do my Emperors Children purple, what the recipe is for it, how I lay it down. So just thought I'd do a quick video just showing how it's done. You'll see I started here with a base coat on the model, just a Chaos Black base coat, or Colour Forge do a really nice black spray as well, and then I'm base coating the whole model in a Phoenician purple. That's the airbrush paint from Citadel. All of the paints I'm going to use on this today are Citadel, but there are plenty of equivalents, some nice purples from scale 75 that work really well for this. I'm just doing this with what's most accessible for most people. So you see, going over the whole thing, go over with the paint obviously in your airbrush nice and thinned down. Go over a few sort of thin coats and make sure you're getting in all of the different angles on this one so that the whole model is coated in this darkest colour. Once it's dried, it will look really nice and dark because of the black spray underneath. See that I'm doing short little bursts here just to make sure I'm getting in all of those gaps that I've missed on the first sort of bulk go round. And here you'll see behind the whole squad's base coated. We're on the couple of layers in here, so it builds up a bit of depth to that colour, makes it nice and strong and deep. I think here I did 3 coats, if I'm correct on these. Now we're into the second stage, so here I'm using the Zerus or Zerus purple from Citadel again. This is very slightly different tone than the Phoenician, so there's a little bit more, I want to say red to this purple, just brings out a little bit more colour, a little bit more depth. And I'm using this to do a highlight on the areas that you want your light to hit on these models. Now I go with a bit of a generic sort of highlight on them, so highlight the areas that kind of stand out a little bit more. This just kind of means that I'm not tying it into a particular light source. You can just go from one particular direction if you want a particular light source on this. It's just not how I sort of do these ones. So as I say, this purple just brings out a slightly different tone. I'm doing quite large areas of the model with this one and just leaving the original base coat in the sort of areas that want to keep the darkest. And again, I do a couple of layers of this just to build up the depth of the colour. Getting all those little edges that stand out, the little sort of vents on the backpack, those little bits that you might miss, you might forget about. Those little bits are the bits that kind of make the difference, that makes the model just that little level up. Now this is where you're going to notice the biggest change in colour. So we're going on to a Gene Stealer purple now, and this is going to be a much thinner highlight than the previous layer. So in much smaller areas. So for example, that stripe on the top where the armour comes to a peak, that's a lot thinner than the layer underneath. And I'm trying to make sure that I hold the model in directions where if there is an edge to the model, it can the spray from the airbrush will define that edge rather than blend over the edge. It just makes those little sort of edges, that ridge along the torso, stand out a little bit more. And again here, each layer you get a smaller and smaller highlight to make this stand out more. And you start to see a lot bigger changes in tones. Now we're getting into much lighter purples. A lot of people said, why do I use 4 purples? And the same people have commented saying how nice and deep and rich the purple is, so it speaks for itself really. It's a really simple technique. Anyone with an airbrush can do this. Doesn't matter whether you've got an expensive airbrush, a cheap starter airbrush. It's such a basic airbrush technique. Anyone can do this and get a really nice finish on their models. It's then up to you whether you then go in with line highlighting and things like that afterwards. So final layer, and this is going to be the smallest highlight. This is the Cacophony purple. Most of the first 2 and this paint, I'm used to using these from the first edition Forge World ranges of paints. I've still got some of the Forge World ones. I'm just using these that have converted over to the Citadel range now. And you see I'm really catching just the very, very smallest edges. Tiny little dots of this one just to highlight in the real peak areas. Just making those edges stand out. And here's a few images just to show the finished article on the purple. Thanks for watching, guys.